Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, it is Friday afternoon. So that means that we are here for another episode of Focus on It Friday. So come on in and let us have a good time. Hello, I see someone has shown up. As you come in, go ahead and tell me where you're from. So that I can know who all is watching. Hello there, Adrian. Thanks for joining. We have some good things that we're going to talk about, as we normally do. Hello, Mama, and happy birthday. It's my mom's birthday today, y'all. So we're just going to have a little bit of a good time like we always do. All right, come on in. We have 5 people watching. I usually go ahead and start at about 12:03, but I just jumped on a little bit late myself. I had some work to run over from the morning, but I am still going to make sure that I give you all a slamming good time today. So come on in. Thank you for watching and joining us. All right, we'll give just one more minute and then we'll get started with our Focus on It Friday. Hello, Karen. Thank you for watching. Thank you all for watching. Such a beautiful day. As I always say, the sun is shining. It's a little bit more cloudy than it normally is. Hello, Dia. Thank you for watching. And she says, happy birthday, Mama Rudolph. So thank you all so much for joining. At 12:05 sharp, I'm going to start. I got started a little bit late, but I am going to make sure that we have a loaded, jam-packed good time today. So come on in. Like I said, if you have any questions, some people have already sent me questions, and I'm very, very, very excited about that. Hello, Dr. Kelly. Thank you for joining us today from Texas. So we've got Texas and Alabama and Georgia joining us, and I so appreciate you all being here. It is 12:05, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I am Dr. Brandi B, your triple board certified pediatrician, adult psychiatrist, and child and adolescent psychiatrist. Through my webinars, speaking engagements, and coaching exercises, I help worried, overworked, overwhelmed moms, dads, family members who may have family members with any problems. My specialty is ADHD, though. Come in and get the knowledge that they need so that they can help their family members be well, be healthy, and be mentally fit. So today, I decided to do something a little bit different. I decided to do Ask the Psychiatrist, all right? So people have submitted questions, and I have about 15, I believe. I'm not going to probably make it through all of them. Hi, Allie, joining from Indiana. Thank you. I probably won't be able to make it through all of them, but you know me. I'll go and go and go and go. So I'm going to certainly make it my business. All right. Hello, Miss Sadie. Thank you for joining. So the first question I have, of course, is an ADHD question. That question is, can I play sports and take medications for ADHD? Hello, Karen. Hello, Toya. So can I play sports and take medications for ADHD? So if you missed it, we are doing Ask the Psychiatrist. Anything you want to ask. And so people have asked all kinds of questions. So should your child take medicine, or can they take medicines for ADHD while they play sports? And the answer is absolutely yes. I cannot tell you, let me go back. I've said before many times, ADHD is a pervasive disorder. Pervasive means it affects everything that you do, whether you're at home, whether you're at school, whether you're at work, if you're an adult or child, or whether you're at play, for example, sports. And so it is very important that you focus, okay? If you cannot focus, you can't do the job. If your job is to run right, tackle, on the 30-yard line or whatever, but you know your left from your right, but you got distracted because somebody called your name from the stands, so you look left and run left, then that's going to be a problem. I've even had instances where in baseball, in the outfield, kids looking around, got hit dead smack in the head. Or in basketball, where the kid was dribbling, shoot, and it was beautiful. It was a 3-pointer, in fact. but it was the wrong goal. And as I understand, in basketball, if you shoot in the wrong goal, it's the right goal for the other team. So whichever goal it's been assigned, that's the team that's going to get the point. So you absolutely need to be able to focus in practice so that you'll know the drills, and you need to focus while you're playing the game so that you can execute what you have practiced. Now, I have had children to tell me that they felt slower, that they didn't feel themselves. And so I want you to just know that that may be the case. Hi, Auntie Louise. But also know that your speed may be a millisecond slower, but if you're executing and following out the task or the drill, then your coach is going to be far more happy with you than if you were just running real fast in the wrong direction. Hey, Miss Ware, thanks for joining. All right, so that was question number 1. That was a good one. Now, what do I do if my adult child won't get help for mental illness? Ooh, I get calls like this at least 3 times a year. Probably more if people really understood that I do adult psychiatry as well, so don't tell them. But no, I'm happy to help. So what happens if you have an adult child who needs some mental health treatment and won't get it? Well, first of all, people have a right to do things, bad things, harmful things to themselves. And we as parents don't like it. We as family members don't like it. We as employers don't like it. We feel sorry for them. We pray for them. We help them. We hope that they will gain insight. We do whatever we can to help them with that. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. So there are 3 things. She is married, Fred Bowling. Yes, she is. You probably know her husband. Thanks for joining. But there are 3 things you need to know about what we can do on the medical side if you have a family member who needs some mental attention, mental help, but won't get it. They either need to be a danger to themselves, meaning that they want to hurt themselves, a danger to others, meaning that they want to hurt somebody else, or gravely disabled. And so what does it mean to be gravely disabled? Glad you asked. If you are gravely disabled, that means that your mental illness prevents you from taking care of your basic needs, including housing, clothing, and just taking care of yourself. So we know when we see people out on the street, they look unkempt. Nobody really bothers them, okay? They may be homeless, and we don't really bother them. In fact, we help those people. But if that homeless person is now in the street naked, or let's say they aren't homeless, but they're out in the street naked, then that is going to be what might classify as being gravely disabled. So if your family member is a danger to themselves, a danger to others, or is gravely disabled, then what you could do is file an emergency petition or what else we call it? A 72-hour hold is what it is. So for 72 business hours, we can watch and evaluate and examine your loved one in the hospital, usually on a mental health unit. Now, there's 72 business hours. So if they go in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, then they will be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday. Hi, Amanda. Hello, Auntie Louise. Thank you all for joining. So it's 72 business hours. And what we're doing during that time is evaluating them to say, does this person really have a mental health problem that makes them be either a danger to themselves, a danger to others, or gravely disabled? If we find that during that time they were, say, high on drugs, okay, and they've calmed down, they were like, oh my God, I don't know what in the world. People tell me I was naked. That was a bad decision. I don't want to ever do that again. Then we may let them go home. But if we learn that they have a thought disorder or a serious mood disorder, and so when they stepped out in front of that truck, 18-wheeler on 2059, they really meant to, and they really meant to take their lives, then we may go through getting a probate judge involved who would then order a petition, a commitment, okay? Which means that we can keep you now in the hospital legally, and we can go about, depending upon what the order says, because there could be an order to treat. So we could give you medications to help with your mental health disorder in case that you are refusing, because most people, sometimes you can get people to say, oh boy, I really need to be here, I was in a bad way. And then sometimes people will say, what is wrong with y'all are the ones that have something wrong, I'm all right, I need to go. And so if we have an order to treat and the commitment order, then we can keep them in the hospital until such time as they are better or deemed to be okay to be discharged. Now, some people still need an order that would then commit them to a hospital, for example, or to commit them to a longer term of treatment. Okay, so these 72-hour holds sometimes are not necessarily easy to get, because right, if your person is really swift, right? And so the authorities come out. Hey, Uncle Maurice, thanks for joining. The authorities come out and they are able to keep it together, to pull it together, and really to just tell them all the right things. Then they are not likely to force them into the hospital. So you really have to document well, have good examples, and be persistent. Oftentimes, psychiatrists are not going to, we try to avoid being the ones to issue those petitions because we have a working relationship with the patient. So if they're already coming to us and they trust us, we try our very best to keep that trust, and to not go and issue a petition. But if we have to, we will. But we do like for family to do that when at all possible. All right, that was a good one. So somebody out there needs that. I would just let you know that people have a right to use drugs. I mean, it's unfortunate, but people make bad decisions. And so, thank you, Uncle Maurice. So people make bad decisions, and we don't go and commit people for drug rehab. That can happen. A judge can order that, but usually those people have gotten into a whole lot of trouble or something that's really significant, and the judge will say, we're ordering them to rehab. All right. Speaking of rehab and drugs, another question came in: does substance abuse run in families? So there has definitely been a lot of talk and research that looks at alcohol abuse and its propensity or likelihood to run in families. And so what we found is that oftentimes families, you will see them, a lot of people in the family are using alcohol. What's the best way to cure that type of alcohol abuse or alcoholism is to never drink. So if someone in your family has abused alcohol or drugs and you have small kids coming under, being honest is always a good thing, saying, hey, this is in our family, and then encouraging your kids to never drink. Because if you don't drink, there's no way you can become someone who abuses alcohol. The other thing is that with other substances and alcohol as well, there is the genetic portion, but then it's also a very learned behavior as well. If what you see at your house every third night and all on the weekends is people doing drugs and drinking, that becomes a part of a lifestyle that you create, that your kids come to expect and accept as typical or normal. So we do want to minimize that environment piece as kids are growing up, such that they don't think of that as normal or typical when they grow up, and can make decisions based on the people that they're around or celebratory events or whatever the case may be. So that's that piece on substance abuse. Don't ever try. Just don't do it. All right. So, hey, Andrea, thanks for joining. So this next question says, my teenage child is depressed because we aren't doing anything since the coronavirus pandemic began. Do you have any tips? And as a matter of fact, I do. So coronavirus is a tough time, right? We're all stuck in the house. We aren't getting to see our family and friends. We aren't getting to visit our loved ones when they're hospitalized. It's a very tough time. Some of us are working from home, and for some people that's great. For other people it's not, because they like social interaction, or it's just difficult because they're at home with their children and their husbands at home like I am. And so all right, lost connection for a minute. But we tend to think you've got all these different social media outlets and FaceTime and everything, go ahead and just use some of them. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes we just need to go ahead and allow ourselves to splurge, if you will. So I knew of a family who was getting their food, their groceries delivered in, and they wouldn't leave the house for like 14 days at a time. And so at a certain point, you just have to say, okay, I love the Lord. He heard my cry. But right now, church is a really bad place for me to be. And there are several articles about that now. And so you may have to decide, maybe I just want to go to the church yard and listen on the live streaming that the pastor's doing from the inside. And that may make you feel better. Or maybe you and your family may want to go to the park, find a little place for just the 5 or 6 of you all, the people that you live with, and y'all sit there and eat. And not have a big multi-family, all the people coming from Detroit and Cleveland and LA, all y'all getting together. That may not be the time to do this, but it sure may be a time for the people in your family, in your house, to get out and enjoy that. I think that we have to find a way, as much as possible, to make some normalcy out of something that's just not normal. This isn't typical. But we have to make sure that we get outside. I did a long while back, I think it was on my personal page, the benefits of the sun. So the sun gives you energy. The sun is an antidepressant. It lifts your mood. And so just being out of the house can be very good for the soul. We talked at length, a whole episode, about whether or not to return your kids to school. So that is something that is either a personal decision, or as in the case with the Birmingham City Schools, that decision was made for us because the entire system is closed. But, I have talked to people who feel like, I really don't feel comfortable with my kid going to school, but I really feel like that's what's best for them from a social standpoint. And so we really just have to do what we think is best, but also keep everybody in the household in mind. And if one particular person really is just not doing well, I think it would be much better to go out and get some sunshine than it would be to put the child on an antidepressant. So think about how you can go about doing that, keeping some sense of normalcy while still staying safe. There are several pieces of information that kind of rate what's safe and what's not. For example, a closed building for a birthday party may not be the greatest thing right now, but we have drive-bys. I've seen people doing their own backyard unblock. That was the big thing last year in Birmingham. It was new, and I was looking forward to it this year, but this year I don't know that it's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that you and 5 small families or you and 2 other families can sit in each corner of your large backyard. Not together, but you come in and go over there, have all your food with you over there and you back there, and we can wave at each other in the distance. And we've still seen people, all right, but we are still staying far away from them. We are social beings for the most part, and so we still need to keep that in order to feel okay, because at the end of all of this, we're going to come out on the other side. We really are, but we need to make sure that we are mentally well when we do. Miss Daji, thanks for joining. She says, great information. Dr. Kelly says, great information. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining and for those comments. All right, so now we're going to keep asking a psychiatrist. The next question says, why do psychiatrists ask so many questions? And I'm sure my husband may have submitted that one. But we do ask questions, and that is because as psychiatrists, that's our lab work, if you will. That's my x-ray, if you will. I ask questions, and I ask questions because so can I play in a backyard unblanc? No, sir, Fred Bowling, but nice try. All right, so I ask a lot of questions because that's how I get my information. I need to ask you questions, and I need you to be as honest as you can, because I'm not judging you. I'm just collecting data, collecting information so that I can make a diagnosis. And more importantly, though, than the diagnosis, for me, is that I need to be able to make sure that my treatment plan is accurate. So whether I just send you to a therapist, or whether I prescribe medication, or whether I do both, which is usually going to be a good answer, or maybe I say, hey, you just had a bad thing to happen. You're handling it well. Great job. Keep going. Either of those, I need to know, but the only way I know that is because I have asked you a lot of questions. So I'm not trying to be in your business. Remember, you came to see me, and so now I need to help you. So I don't put a needle in your arm and draw blood. I don't do an x-ray. I don't do a CAT scan or a CT scan. I ask you questions. And honestly, your other doctors, okay, they're only ordering those tests because they've asked you questions. And when you said I'm short of breath when I walk, but it only happens when I run, you know, they are probably less likely to think coronavirus, but more likely to think anemia or something else. And so they may go that route. So they're basing all of their questions off, or their plan rather, off questions that they ask you. So please don't get annoyed with us. We're just doing labs. We're just drawing blood work, right? When we ask these questions. Hi, Cecilia. Thanks for joining, and thanks for the comment of great information. All right. What else are we going to ask a psychiatrist? Oh, speaking of all these questions, this person wants to know, why did the psychiatrist ask my child if she was attracted to girls? So the psychiatrist asked her daughter if she was attracted to girls, and this was a problem for her. So first, let me say that homosexuality is not a mental health disorder, all right? It was a long time ago in the DSM, and then they figured out, these people don't have any sort of mental health disorder. So we took out homosexuality way back in the 70s or so. And more importantly, for why a psychiatrist would ask your child that, your girl, if she's attracted to girls, is because if a child comes in with depression or anxiety, particularly depression, and they have recently come out as being gay or are thinking about coming out, that sets them up to be bullied, ostracized, socially isolated, and it also sets them up for suicide. And so I make no assumptions about a person's sexuality. And again, doesn't bother me one way or the other what you are, but it helps me to know if you, and I just ask everybody. So nobody can say, well, she didn't ask me because I don't look a certain way. That's just that. Asking a person, are they attracted to boys, girls, or both, is about as common for asking, how do you sleep with me? So it's not uncomfortable for me because I ask everybody of a certain age. But I want to know, are you getting bullied because of that? Are you isolating from your friends because of that? Did you not make the cheerleader squad because of that, right? And so these are all things that could lead to depression, and now I need to worry about getting you better so that you don't get more depressed, get debilitated, which means you don't do anything, and then get you to the point where you suicide. That's a big concern. So that's why your psychiatrist might ask your daughter why, if she was attracted to girls. Somebody says, I think my child has an eating disorder. When should I be concerned? So at the point that you think your child has an eating disorder, that is the point that you should be concerned. And you should go about seeking mental health treatment at that time. So let me just say this. Substance use disorders is a mental health disorders. Eating disorders are also mental health disorders as well. At the point that you are concerned that your child has an eating disorder, we need to go ahead now and get that under control. Eating disorders, particularly anorexia nervosa. And just so you know, if you get one of my notes because you want your medical records and you see anorexia is just the loss of appetite or not eating. Anorexia nervosa is a diagnosis, and that is what most people typically call anorexia. So don't think, that I'm saying your child has anorexia because I say patient endorses anorexia. That just means that you don't have an appetite. But you should be concerned if your child is less than 75% of their ideal body weight. Okay, that is going to be something that may necessitate them being hospitalized if their heart rate is low. Okay, and I'm talking less than 50. If their blood pressure is low, if their temperature is low, right? Because you need a certain amount of fat to keep all this stuff going, right? And so if you get so thin that your electrolytes are out of whack, then these are things that may require you to go into the hospital. If you have bulimia, and one of the big differences, for me to keep it simple, bulimia usually causes people to vomit a lot because they eat in large amounts large amounts in a short period of time, and then they vomit. But there's also a type of anorexia that does that, but you don't need to know about all of that. But most people think of bulimia as eating a lot and then vomiting. And so they can get esophageal tears, so tears in their esophagus. Hi, Alethea. Thank you for joining. So those people, if they have an esophageal tear, they may need to go into the hospital. Also, if they're small, and for both of them, if you're failing outpatient treatment. So if you just absolutely refuse to eat, and for example, if someone does blood work on you and they see that your electrolytes, sodium, potassium, chloride, they're all out of whack, you definitely need to be hospitalized, because there is a science and there is a method to refeeding or giving people food again. There's a phenomenon called refeeding syndrome. And what happens, just keeping it very simple, what happens is when you say to somebody, you're going to eat all of this right now, and they hadn't eaten in a month, then all of the ATP, the energy cells, they take off and they run after that food and they grab it up when it gets into the body. And then those cells are like, overload. Okay. So even refeeding needs to be done very slowly and in a very controlled environment. And therapy is the key for any sort of eating disorder. We do have some medications that we use to help it, but really family therapy for anorexia is the key, because a lot of times people will have other underlying disorders like anxiety and depression. And then for bulimia, cognitive behavioral therapy. Usually people have distorted thoughts about food and or their body images. Depression and even sexual abuse has been present in the past in a lot of those patients. So we want to get them in therapy as well. But that was a great question. Thanks for whoever submitted that one. All right, moving on to number 8. My child doesn't sleep. I know I'm not supposed to, but I gave her some of my Klonopin and it worked. Is Klonopin okay in children? Now, mama, no. The first problem is that you gave somebody other than the patient's name on the bottle some medicine. No. Never, ever. Because if that kid has a reaction, then people at the hospital are looking on that child's medication list and they're like, what could it have been? And you're like, well, I gave him some Klonopin. Okay. So thank you for telling us that you gave your child some Klonopin to help them sleep. And thank God it worked. But no, don't do that again. And no, your child won't get Klonopin from me anymore. Miss Sadie says amen. So Klonopin is a benzodiazepine in the family with Valium, Xanax, and there's another one I'm can't think of right now, but they're benzodiazepines. Klonopin inside of your body hits the same receptors as alcohol, so it looks like alcohol to your body. Your body really didn't know a difference, which is why you've ever known anybody to go into the hospital with a significant alcohol intake history. One of the things that we'll do is to put them on Valium or something long acting to try to transition from the alcohol over to something that we can control, because we want to prevent DTs, okay? DTs or delirious tremens, which are the shakes, all right? So the shakes can go on over to seizures, and from seizures you can die, right? So we want to prevent that. In children, there are very few cases where, in my world as a psychiatrist, benzodiazepines are going to be okay. Certainly, they're never going to be okay with a mom who gave them to her child. There are definitely some other things, some movement disorders and some other things where they may be required, but my standpoint as a psychiatrist, no. There are several reasons that children cannot be sleeping. And so it could be from something as simple as they don't have a good bedtime routine, or sleep hygiene, as we call it. You have hygiene for everything else. Your sleep deserves some hygiene as well. So being in a quiet area, being in a dimly lit area, having soft music, if any music, getting a bath, getting a bedtime story, saying prayers. All of those are part of a routine or sleep hygiene, so that when the body says, ooh, we're doing this, we're on our knees saying prayers, that means we go to sleep. So it's important to have that. And it could be from just an abnormal hygiene, sleep hygiene, especially with all the electronics, the devices that we have. The TV is going, the radio is going, the cell phone is going, and some gaming system is going. And we're like, well, he won't go to sleep. Well, okay, he probably is not. But it could be from that all the way over to obstructive sleep apnea, which is where when you're sleeping, all your muscles relax in REM sleep, that the muscles for sleeping, they are no different. They start to relax as well. Everything starts to fall back. You get a loud snore and you wake up. The next morning, you don't feel refreshed, but you've been asleep for 8 hours, okay? So no to Klonopin. We don't do that. And the two big reasons, just in summary, that I do not use benzodiazepines, and they are definitely not going to be first line for almost anybody, but for certain for kids, is because of the addictive potential, the abuse potential, okay? And also because of the rebound, insomnia, rebound. So you take it, and then you say, oh my goodness, I don't want to take this anymore. So you stop, okay? And then all of a sudden the insomnia or inability to either go to sleep or stay asleep goes far up worse than it was before. There are several other medicines for sleep that are actually effective. Some over the counter, like melatonin. Some people use Benadryl even over the counter. And if you look at all of your sleep medicines, your Tylenol PM, any of those PM gonna help you go to sleep, is either diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl, or melatonin. And melatonin is produced in our brains, and it is what comes out to play when the lights go down or the sun goes away. Some people's don't work, some people don't have enough, some people's receptors aren't working, and so we may just have to supplement a little bit. But for two reasons, the abuse potential and the rebound, insomnia potential, we do not give benzodiazepines to young children, and I would not suggest them in any adult either. Good question. And don't give your kid your medicines, or anybody else's for that matter. All right, I think my mother has dementia. What should I do? Oh my goodness. All right. So we're finding more and more that people are getting dementia, right? Which has a new fancy name. There are several types of dementia or cognitive decline. Most people are familiar with Alzheimer, 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 okay? Not all-timer or old-timer, but we know what you're talking about if you say it. So there are several other types, though. One of the more common ones occurs after people have a stroke, okay? So your brain needs blood vessels and blood flow, and so a stroke, which is basically a heart attack of the brain, if that happens, then you can get a dementia related to that. We call it vascular, VASCULAR dementia, like your blood vessels. Hi, Elaine. Thanks for joining. So a vascular dementia. If mom has some dementia, so first you're going to start off with her noticing that she is forgetting stuff like, where did I put my keys? And where did I put my car? She went to Walmart and she forgot. She went to, Walmart or Aldi during the senior hours, but she came out, not many cars there, but she still couldn't find hers. She got lost. Or she was driving home in Birmingham and ended up, her house is 10 minutes down the road, but she ended up 43 and a half minutes away. And some police is calling you saying, is this your mother? She's over 3 counties over. So that kind of thing. Then start leaving things on, then not paying bills. And by the time we are forgetting who she is, or who her kids are, or her husband are, it's pretty bad at that time. It's best to, if you start noticing that, those symptoms, those early symptoms in mom, to go ahead and take mom into her doctor. Now, if you're already taking mom, this is easy. When you get there, so we as professionals, as physicians, a lot of times we can't give you information, but we certainly can listen to what you tell us. So if mama has always said, I don't want my daughter knowing nothing about me, she just always trying to be in my business. Okay, well, I got to respect mama's wishes. I can't tell you anything, but if you want to tell me something, and if you want to tell me that mama had got lost going to the Walmart 10 minutes from home and ended up in Mississippi, she's in central Alabama, she ended up in Mississippi, then I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to offer you something, in fact. So there are medications which do not stop the process, the progress, but they can slow it, okay? And dementia is a pretty awful thing to have happen. It's really, really, really sad, because oftentimes people's bodies will physically be fit, but they just can't remember things. So, talking to them, they're telling you about stories from the 60s and 70s as if it's happening right now or happened yesterday. Then, of course, it's sad when they don't remember their loved ones. and they will physically be fit but just not present. The person that you knew, the person who raised you, the person who always comforted you is just not the same person anymore. And so it's a very troubling thing for families. But if mom is such that she's still feisty enough to not want you to be involved, and she is physically fit, that she's still living on her own, that kind of thing, just keep an eye on her. But as I tell you, for those that are my loyal followers, I tell you to be honest with yourself, and try to be as honest as you can with the patient. If mama's not hearing it, she's just not hearing it. But be very honest with yourself, because it may be something that you can begin to slow. All right. And we may just have to tell mom that this is going to help her to remember things and be sharp again. We won't mention words like dementia. And I know I'm really big on say what it is, call it like it is. But maybe mama's just not ready to hear dementia yet. And we won't force that on her right now. All right. But stay on top of it. Call her doctor, be in communication with her doctor, but most importantly, be honest with yourself. Nobody wants to admit anything is wrong with any family member, but we've got to be honest with ourselves so that we can help our parents and our loved ones if dementia is something that's being considered. Very good question. All right. My child does not talk. Some have told me to consider autism, but I'm scared. Do you think he needs to be evaluated for autism? He's really smart. Oh boy, that's a loaded question, and we're gonna get to that in its own live one day coming up soon, hopefully. Briefly though, all that doesn't talk isn't autism, just like all that wheezes isn't asthma. Okay, so kids could not talk for a variety of reasons. One of the first things is that they can't hear. So a lot of what we say is because we are repeating sounds that we've heard. So if nobody around us is talking, or if people around us are speaking Spanish, then we're going to speak Spanish. We won't just automatically start speaking English, and vice versa. If people around us have speech problems, we're probably going to talk the same way. If people around us are deaf, and we know everyone has heard a deaf person talk, they have a very distinct way that they sound. And so if you grow up around someone like that, you are likely to sound like them as well. So if your child is not speaking, the very first thing you need to do is to talk with your pediatrician and get a speech evaluation. Okay. And I've had a lot of kids come to me, and it's like the kid has had 12 ear infections in the past year, and they can't hear. They've got fluid and buildup and pus and all kind of other stuff going on. They can't hear. Once we clean all that out, get the kid in some speech therapy, boom. The next thing you probably need to do is to have a speech evaluation. And once you have a speech evaluation, they may be able to offer some other things that can help with the child's speech to get them up and going and back on track. Okay. As far as autism is concerned, autism is primarily a disorder dealing with social functions and social interactions. Okay, so people who have autism do not get the nuances of being social. One of my favorite examples is when someone says to you, "Hey girl, how you doing?" All right, "Hey, how you're doing" ends in a question mark, which means that's a question. So that means that it's an answer. But in fact, what people are saying is hi, and they add all that other stuff. You and I know that it's really a statement. So we say, "Girl, I'm doing all right. Catch up with you later. We got to talk," while people are still moving. People who have autism may try to tell you about the day. "Well, I woke up, the water was too hot, I cooled it off." And so they go on and on about all these things, and the person has walked off. So now that person with autism is saying, "Well, he's rude." And so now the parents spend the rest of the day consoling that child and or explaining to them how the person wasn't rude. But with autism, they just don't understand those nuances, okay? They get either too close to people and never meet a stranger. So never meeting a stranger can be a good thing. But if you hug everybody that you meet, that might be problematic. On the contrary, if you never hug people like your mom and your dad, you can understand how parents can be like, "This baby doesn't hug me. I'm doing everything right," and they won't bond. All right. They also have, in addition to those social kind of struggles and lack of understanding, they also struggle with doing the same things or having repetitive behaviors that really most people are not really functional, or they don't really serve any purpose. For example, they may line their toys. They may spin the wheels of toys and look at things spinning, like the wheels of the toy, the ceiling fan, get down low and look at the vacuum, just look at the wheels. They are really intrigued by parts of a whole. So they may want to take the batteries out of the remote control and do it repetitively. When it comes to speech, some children, so what used to be Asperger's a while back, hey Laura, thanks for joining. A while back, people would say, we would call it Asperger's, right? You would be called Asperger's if you had no problems with speech, okay? And you would be called autism if you had problems with speech. Well, in the DSM-5, which you hear me talk about, the diagnostic manual that we use to make all mental health disorders, in the 5th one, they got rid of Asperger's, and now it's just all autism spectrum disorder. So now it's not autism, it's a spectrum. And so that is very important, because some people have typically developing speech, whereas others are completely nonverbal, okay? And all in between. So the fact that a child does not speak does not, in fact, mean that they have autism. They could just be anxious. They could have a speech deficit and not be able to produce their words appropriately. So people are always saying, huh? What you doing? What you say? So if enough people say, huh, you're going to stop talking in certain situations, right? Except where you know that other people will understand you. So there are so many things that can make a child not talk. And so we want to make sure that we've ruled out hearing first and foremost, and that we then have all these other things in place before we say that a child has autism spectrum disorder. That was a very good question. I had a question. Are there medicines, foods, or exercises that slow the progression of Alzheimer's? I know I spelled this wrong, but I can't pull up. Okay, very good. So are there medicines, foods, or exercises? And so, yeah, absolutely. So exercises could just be mental exercises. Keeping a grandchild is a great way to keep your mind active. So like my mom, whose birthday is today, happy birthday, Mom, keeps my 19-month-old. So that's a great exercise, keeping your mind active, keeping you engaged, keeping you young, because she's got to always tell her new stuff, explain new things to her. She's got her moving, so that's exercise. So that is one thing you can do. You can also do, hi Priscilla, thanks for joining. You can also do word puzzles and crossword puzzles and those sorts of things. Even, hi Kesia, she says, happy birthday, Mom, thank you. Even doing real life puzzles. I mean, that's a lot of cognitive thinking that goes into that. And then you asked about medicines. Yes, two that come to mind right away are Aricept and Namenda. Those are some medicines that can help with slowing the progression. But as much as you can, make sure that the elderly people around you are engaged. Make sure that they're engaged. And I'm not just talking about, talking to them on the phone. Take them out for a ride. They need to get out of the house too. And keep them youthful, keep them active. And if you see that the signs of Alzheimer's are popping up, or any dementia, go ahead and let the doctor know. And like I said, be honest with yourself. Someone says good morning. That's Auntie Rosalind. Good morning. Good afternoon, I'm sorry. And Crystal, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining. All right, let's see where we are. Let's see, what time is it? I don't know what time it is either. I know I keep y'all too long every time. Oh Lord, it's 12:46. Let me hurry up. Okay, preteen puberty. Somebody says, help. I have 2 kids entering puberty, and I'm about to lose it. They are talking back. They are being rude. They are being disrespectful, and they have been the best kids ever all of their lives. What is going on, and what do I need to do? So remember, adolescence is a normal phase, right? So my one-ager, as I call my 19-month-old, Faith, she is very independent. She is very strong-willed. We'll use words like that. And so she needs things to be done her way or no way. And so as you leave that phase, you then kind of go into a phase where we're going off to school, and it's like, bye, Mom, but they'll still give you a kiss. And then a little bit older, they'll say, bye, Mom, but they'll slide you a kiss real quick. And then I saw on Facebook today, One of my Facebook friends' son is going off to 10th grade today, and he told her this is the best you're going to get, and she got a picture of his back. So these are normal progressions of life, right? We went through them. If we really think about it, some were more significant than others, but we went through these phases, and so it's normal. I would just say this: try to be patient, try to be understanding, do a lot of prayer, and understand that this too shall pass. Even with me and my mom, I can remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to grow up to be like her. But something as simple as me wearing a scarf on my head. Now, that is something that my mom always did. Hi, Tamika. Thanks for joining. And it wasn't until I went off to college that I was like, you know what? When she told me no, that was a really good thing for me. It may have saved my life, but it certainly put me on the trajectory to become a psychiatrist, a physician, a triple-boarded pediatrician, to be sitting here talking to you. But just know that it's normal. Just know that it will end. Try to be patient. If you have a helper, a spouse, somebody else, walk away, take a deep breath, and then come back, talk about with them why these behaviors are unacceptable, but really understand it's a tough period. You know, those tweenage and teenage years are really, hi Tan, thanks for joining. They're really difficult because you're not a kid anymore, but you're not an adult either. And so you're just stuck there. You're too big for the little people table, but you're not big enough for the grown folks table. So you're just there. You're just trying to figure out your way. You're trying to figure it out. And you're saying, when I get 18, I'm moving out. Baby, let's talk about what that means when you move out. Because if I could send these bills to somebody else, I probably would. So we just need to have conversations with them and just exercise a lot of prayer. All right, let me see. I'm going to try to get y'all off here. Somebody asked me this question: how do I avoid letting people upset my mood? And that is a very good question. But I want to talk to you just real quick. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm Christian. Hope that's not offensive to anyone. I treat patients no matter what their background is. But since you're here joining me for this hour, I can share with you that I'm Christian. All right. And so I want to make sure that we understand the difference between being happy and being joyful. Happy and joy. Joy comes from God. Somebody even came up with the acronym, Jesus, others, and then you. All right. And if Jesus is at the top, that is a feeling that doesn't go away. It's something on the inside. It is not made up of what's going on around me, because the coronavirus is going on around me. Sickness is going on around me. Death is going on around me. Families, discord is going on around me. Parents stressed out about sending their kids to school is going on around me. Me trying to work in here and see patients while my kids are asking me for Lucky Charms 10 times a day, I swear. All of that is going on around me. But joy is still what happens and what you have on the inside, no matter what is going on around you. So happiness is based on the circumstances of this world. Joy comes from somewhere else. And don't ever let anybody upset or steal your joy, right? I can't medicate that. I can't give you joy, and I can't take it away from you. So make sure that nobody else can. I can help you find happiness, but what I want you to do is to really search and see if you can find some joy. Because even when life gives you bad lemons, joy will help you find sugar or Splenda, whichever you prefer, to sweeten that thing up. So that is what we've got to do. We've got to make sure that we have joy. From if you rub a rabbit's foot, if you pray to Jesus Christ, if you turn around 7 times in a circle, whatever it does, make sure that you stay focused on having joy and not on being happy, because bad news will make you sad. A breakup will make you sad. Getting fired will make you sad. But if you have joy, you will be able to say, oh my God, I'm going to be all right in the morning. Is that right? Y'all understand? I'm sorry I went to church on y'all a little bit. But I do go to church and I love the Lord, okay? And so I am very much a person who, and even when my patients come in, if they tell me that they're Christian, we going to pray, all right? Because people are stressed out. It's a lot going on. Everybody's got a lot going on. But make sure you focus on your joy and not your happiness. All right, I know y'all are tired of me talking. Let me see, is there anything else? How old can my child be before being treated with ADHD? We've talked about that in the past. I've treated some as young as 3, but most kids get kind of picked up or brought to my attention when they go to kindergarten. And what was your favorite patient success story? I have so many. I mean, I've been doing this a while. ADHD is obviously my specialty and the thing that interests me, but I work in a lot of different settings. I work on an inpatient unit, on a geriatric psych floor, and there I see a lot of patients with dementia, and so I know firsthand just how heartbreaking it is. And, you know, I guess it's not a success story because we aren't necessarily curing it. And by the time they start to come into the hospital, things are really declining. And in some types of dementia, like Lewy body, for example, LEWY, Lewy body dementia, those people can have pretty rapid declines in their dementia. And there's really not a whole lot of success as in did they get better. But knowing that I played a role, although small, because I get up and go in and do my thing and leave, but just bringing some joy to their life. Sometimes they just say, oh, you're so pretty. Now that brings me a little bit of joy too. But just knowing that I can be there with a smile, because what you all see every Friday is what I try to give every single day of my life. My husband lives with me. He could probably tell you, for the most part, I'm a half full type of girl, and the sun is shining, and so let's go for it. And my mom says, thanks for that advice. There's a bright side somewhere. And there actually is a bright side. And so I just feel happy on that aspect, knowing that I was able to bring some sunshine to those, my old babies, as I call them. Because people say, you like kids, how you deal with that? Because they're my old babies, right? They need us to feed them, sometimes to hold them, to make sure. We don't know what they're trying to express, so we got to figure it out. They fall and bump their heads. And then, of course, all the way over, to my, I actually had a patient. Thank you, Auntie. She says, my beautiful niece, thank you. I actually had a patient Thursday, that was yesterday, to say to me when I asked her about her sexuality. She asked me that question. Why do you need to know about that? And I said, first of all, I'm asking you that just as I would any other question that I've asked you, because that comes at the end, probably about 10 minutes into the conversation. And I said, I don't judge you. And I really don't. And I'm not trying to tell you that it's wrong, that it's right, or whatever else. Fred says, makes it hard to argue because she's always wants to keep it positive. And I really do. Thank you, Miss Sadie. Beautiful inside and out. Y'all are just so kind to me today. And I really appreciate y'all speaking back to me as I'm giving to you. And of course, so with that child, she just seemed like, and I didn't know her sexuality. Nothing about her would have told me, just to look at her, would have told me that she was attracted to girls. And her mom said, baby, it's okay, say it. And it looks like when she said it, she just immediately relaxed. And we had a great conversation thereafter, because I'm not here to judge. I'm here to try to figure out why you're depressed so that we can move on. And then, of course, with ADHD, that is probably the most rewarding thing ever, because I have literally seen husbands and wives not speaking, children making failing grades starting about third grade, children getting into behavior problems, nobody inviting the kid to birthday parties because they were so destructive. I've seen that turn around in a matter of a month. And there is no joy that I can say replaces that joy. Or when the patients that I serve, and most of my patients are poor. And I love treating that population. But when they come back and they say, if I had money to give you, I would give you something. And I'm like, there is nothing that you can give me. Just knowing that your family is intact, somebody will keep your kids so you and your husband can have a dinner date or whatever. And this kid is now more likely set up to do well, be successful, and to thrive in life. I think that's all I have for you all. I just want to ask that you all just pray for people. People are really hurting. People are getting bad news every day. People are stressed out. It's a very tough time. Coronavirus is not over. I would be remiss if I left y'all, because I am a physician, right? We learned that sometimes back, that psychiatrists are actually doctors. We're actually doctors. And so I want you to know that coronavirus is real. Coronavirus is really hurting people. A lot of our families are hurting in this country. 145,000 or so people have died. And so that is a lot of families that have been impacted. So just pray for people. You never know what people are going through. So just pray for them. Keep your joy. Hang in there with your teenagers. Hang in there with your parents who are getting older. Make sure you show them some attention, because old people get depressed, and old people certainly suicide. You know, you get to the end of life, 70, 80, 90 years old, and if you've not accomplished all that you thought you would have, that's a very hard time. And even if you have, and now your kids are on with their lives, they're being busy, they're having their families, they're having their jobs, it's easy for them to feel forgotten about. So check on your old folks in your life, your elderly people. Wear your masks, wash your hands, and if you're gonna have a family unblock, go and spread out in the backyard. But do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to maintain that joy, and to not let anybody and anything in any circumstance come in the way of what that joy is that you have inside of you. All right, guys, I kept you longer than I have any day, and for that I apologize. But if y'all are hanging in there with me, that means that it was at least decent, or y'all just like me a lot. But I thank you and I appreciate y'all so much. I'm going to get out of here. You all know who I am. I am Dr. Brandi B, your triple board certified pediatrician, child and adolescent psychiatrist, and adult psychiatrist. I help worried, overworked, overwhelmed, plain old tired moms and family members, anybody, dad, uncle, cousin, whomever, who has any family member or themselves even, who is struggling with a mental health disorder, gain the knowledge, the encouragement that they need so that they can tackle this thing called life, go on to be prosperous, and to live, as they say, their best lives. I love y'all. I really do. Y'all come and hang out with me every Friday, and for that, I am so grateful. You could be anywhere, but you're here hanging out with Dr. Brandi B for this Focus on It Friday. So with that being said, I am going to bid you all adieu. Be safe. Wear your masks on your nose. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.